Hello everyone, this is Bbeltdan and we are back in Blender working on the Enterprise J. From the last time that we were here, I did do a little bit of work off screen and I'll show you some of those details here real quick. You can probably see it if I go ahead and do a quick little render. There you go. I've added a few extra details. For one thing, I noticed looking at the photograph, it looked like that this little section here, which was flat, was raised. I'll show you that in a minute. Gave a little depression right here in this dome area, which I made a decision I'm going to redo this entire dome area. I don't like the way it looked. And I started adding some surface details along the top, which once again, I'll go back to the picture and I'll show you those here in a minute. If we go ahead and get rid of that, so yeah, looking at it, there seems to be a bit of a shadow right here and a little bit of a shadow there, which kind of hints at this area right here, which I speculate might be flat, is recessed in. So this area and this area is popping up a little bit, which if the ship is as big as they speculate the ship to be, which is about 2 miles, that gives me a little bit of room to play with to where I can add some windows right around in there, even though it's kind of difficult to determine if there are indeed windows. But think of like the 10 forward lounge on the Enterprise D, about how the windows are kind of in a vertical situation compared to some of the other windows, which are more of a diagonal horizontal position. And the other ridge details that I'm giving are right here. You can see that these look like they're a bit recessed as well. So I'm giving those details, and I'll be doing these other two as well. Another detail that I went ahead and I gave it, you can't really see it here unless I zoom in right here, is this. If you notice on the Enterprise D, and I believe it is on the E and subsequent ships after that, that there's this ring here which contains all the sensor arrays. So I went ahead and I gave this little recessed area for the sensor arrays, and I do believe that it is on this ship as well. You can kind of slightly see it right here. So we went ahead and did that as well. So what we're going to be working on today is we're going to go ahead and put in some extra details here. And another thing that I'm going to do, and if y'all would like to probably put some comments in on this, is a little trick that I learned is that somewhere inside the scene you put a block, one single block. Now that block could represent anything. Now what I'm planning on doing is to have that block represent the size of a human. That way as you build the ship, you could put that block to try to get a sense of scale, not only in the reference picture, but also in the model itself, to make sure that everything, let's say like if we decide to put some hatchways here to access to the outside, we make sure that that is about the size of the average human, about 6 feet tall. So we would put that inside the scene as well. I might do that the next time to see what type of comments that I may be getting on this, about what I should go by, because you look at these windows here, these windows look huge. So I don't know if I want to make the windows all that big. I mean, if we put it to where, okay, if that window here, this set of windows here is the deck, does that mean that that is about, I think they usually use meters, about 3 meters tall or 2.5 meters tall, which is about, my math is probably completely wrong, but about 6 feet tall, 6 to 7 feet tall per deck, then that would make this entire ship very, very small. And plus, you also got the scaling issue because obviously, I believe that this was reused for this, just scaled down. I believe. I'm not 100% positive, but I believe it might be the same texture. So these windows don't actually quite meet up with these windows. I think I'll figure it out. But I have decided that I'm going to use this section as kind of a, I think they called it an atrium, because Doug Drexler did indeed mention that he imagined this type of ship to where you would have parks and stuff inside the ship. So I'm thinking this right here would be a good little area, which would be kind of like the atrium. You know, this is all living quarters. This right here is all the command center. So this right here would makes sense to be kind of an atrium, a little parks and everything. So, well, let's go ahead and get started, and I'll even show you how I did some of these little details. We are going to go ahead, let's open up this map, and I'm going to go into edit mode, and just so I can see, actually let's go ahead and go into wireframe. That way I can see it. I already got some edge loops lined up right along the line that little panel detail there. So we are going to go ahead, actually I had that right, there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and do a Control R to add in another loop, and I'm going to scale it in to fit relatively close to what it appears that that panel detail is widthwise. Got it? Now I'm going to go into an edge mode, select these two edges, do a Control E, and I am going to go ahead and select the two edge loops. So now I have those two edge loops picked. Let me go ahead and now I'm going to extrude and go along the Z axis just a little bit. I don't want to go too deep, but just a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. Let's go ahead and render it. I don't really see it there, huh? Oh, okay, never mind. I see what the problem is. Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, when you want to extrude and make sure that it deletes all these planes here, you need to go ahead and make sure that you are in there we go. Make sure that you're in vertex selection. There. So now we should be able to see it. And there we go. So we're going to do this one more time. Control R. Scale it in. I know there's some areas where I'm off. That hopefully will be fixed once I smooth out the ship. There. So back into Control E, edge loop, select the two loops. Let's go ahead and go back into vertex mode, extrude, and move it down along the Z axis just to recess it a bit. And voila, there we go. We got the edge details in. All right. So there we go. And I do believe there is some, there's some extra details here. So we'll go ahead and I'll add those in real quick. I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that real quick, and I'll cut back in when I get done. Oh, but another thing I'm going to go ahead and do is I already have some loops in there. I am going to go ahead and grab those. So we'll go back into here. Whoops, there. Control E to grab that loop, and we are going to slide that loop. Slide that one to right about there. Let me go back into, looks like there's one there, one there. Oh, looks like there's four. One, two, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 on this one. Okay. So let me go ahead and, whoops, Control R. Ah, darn it. Let's see. That looks like that's one right there. Let's go ahead and select this loop and slide it to there. Actually, we'll slide it right to there. There we go. And Control R and there. Now, I have been looking at some videos online of some of the newer ships that is in Star Trek Online, and I noticed that their panel detail doesn't tend to be as regular as we've normally seen. They, they're the older ships. They are pretty much just kind of straight and boxy. I've noticed on some of the newer ships, they're starting to look a little bit more. I'm not going to quite say organic, but well, they're not. Like how this meshes, and they're not paneled. I think I saw one of the Odyssey, I believe what it is, and you can see that they make some weird shapes and lines and everything. So whether if I want to do that on this ship, I haven't really quite decided. Maybe I might do some of that onto this part of the ship, but I mean, obviously you can see from the picture that that's not so much the case on this saucer section. So, well, once again, I'm going to go ahead and go back and add in those details like what we did over here, and I'll cut right back in when I'm done. Okay, got finished with that edge detail. You can kind of see it here on the render. It is starting to look, yeah, it's starting to kind of come into shape. We're starting to get a little bit more detail here. Once again, I'm going to have to change this section right here because I'm not too happy with it. It's, if I select the last loops, yeah, see this part right here, it's not quite domed enough. Now I know I can tweak all of this, but I know a better way to do it. I'm just going to go ahead and make kind of a sphere, flatten it out, get into the shape, and then attach it all back in a little bit later. So just to make that a little bit more of a dome shape. But yeah, it's starting to come pretty good. Now, once again, I don't know exactly what I should do with the height of the saucer section. Now, if this ship is indeed what they are saying to be about 2 miles, I don't really believe that it should be 2 miles long. But if it is 2 miles, I mean, then that's actually a lot bigger than what it would appear. So, I don't know. I might probably try to fan it out just a little bit along the z-axis, but definitely along this plane. I mean, it matches up pretty close to what we see on the render. I mean, that right there obviously looks like that's the vertical axis of the saucer section, of the cross section. So we're going to definitely keep that. It's just the rest of this we might probably fatten up a little bit, even though that does look very, very flat. I'm just going to just blame it on the angle. We can't really quite see, how much it probably dips down. Because, I mean, here we got a wider than there, so that kind of hints at that it does dip down, especially when you look at it this way. I mean, that looks like that curves, and that dips down just a little bit. This is another reason why I think it's flat, because you look at this section here, it dips down, and then this flattens out. Now right around here behind this we really can't see, so it looks like it might dip down again. Now back here this looks all flat. I don't know how I should think what I should do about that. I mean, we're kind of hinted at that this might actually be kind of and I think it would be kind of cool to have that where that's flat, and this section here is actually, how should I say, it's you can actually pass through it, like a ship can actually pass through that. Because this is empty space, but I'm not 100% positive yet. I'll figure that out when I get to that point. So, yeah, so we got done with that, and so next thing I'm going to go ahead and do, I think I mentioned it slightly, is I'm going to try to add some primitives inside the scene so I can kind of try to get plotted out the rest of this. Like, let's go ahead and do the nacelles so you can kind of see what I'm talking about doing here. Now, my first ship that I've ever done, or my first attempt at this ship that I've ever done, I made it to where the back portion was flat. So it's actually more like a triangle attached to this thing. But then when I looked at the ship even further, oh, excuse me, burping all over y'all, I apologize. When I looked at the ship even further, though, the pictures even further, actually these do sweep back quite a bit. And the later pictures, that were released does indeed show that. So but I'm going to go ahead, we're going to start with the nacelles. So actually, you know what, let's, because yeah, I could put this just about anywhere in the 3D space and it won't work. So let's go ahead and let's start off with this. Actually, I thought I already put something in there. No, I guess I didn't. Wait, there it is. All right, I actually, yeah, I forgot about that. I already did put a primitive in there. And this right here is going to be this. I don't know if you want to call that the main hall or what. So let's go ahead and see if we can get that to line up. Let's see, so we're going to go to the right. Now, obviously this section here is above the saucer section, so we're going to go ahead and raise that up a bit. And I'm putting the primitives on a different layer, because the primitives, they're not going to be actually on the ship or part of the ship. Now this part's not really quite lining up. Got the saucer section to line up pretty good, but Now that's kind of hinting at if the saucer section is indeed lined up well to the picture. This is hinting at that actually this section might be going up. It might not be straight back as much as we thought it is. Let's see what that looks like if we was to, oh wait, hold up. Let me toy around with this and get this back, because yeah, if I raise this up, then this entire thing is going to have to go down. Let me go ahead and mess around with this, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've did a little bit of work on some of the primitives. This I'm going to have to work on just a little bit more, because it seems to be intersecting a great deal more than what the picture shows. However, though, I wanted to come back in and show you what I'm trying to do with the nacelles, because this is going, or not the nacelles, but the pylons, because this is going to determine if exactly where, well, how long the ship is going to be and where the nacelles are going to go. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I've went ahead and set it up to where the object itself is along the center line here. I have one set of vertices on this side, and I'm going to go ahead and do a mirror modifier on it to where it'll mirror on the other side as well. Because to try to get it right, I can use this, I mean both of them, because if I get it to line up over here, it doesn't quite line up over here, as you can see, or as you'll see as soon as I first put on the modifier. So I'm going to have to modify the vertices on this side to try to not only get it to match up here, but to also get it to match up along there as well. And then after that, that should hopefully give me a good idea of exactly how far back they sweep, how far out they go, and also how far above the saucer section that they are. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, there it is. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add a mirror modifier. And there we go. As you can see, from the way it is right now, it's getting pretty close, but not exact. We need to modify it to where you'll get here. So let's go ahead, select these vertices. Okay, see if I move it out further, it matches up there, but not quite there. Let's go ahead and go onto the side view. Oops. Oh, yeah. In order to try to get it to where it'll match up here, it has to kind of sweep downward on the body. So like I said, I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to look, because most of the images shows it going straight. But it's kind of difficult to determine from these angles, so maybe it does sweep up like that. So let me know what y'all think. But let me go ahead and grab that. So I think most of that is of this body here. Actually, that's good enough, right? Well, hold up. Yes, yeah, I think most of that is just extra bulk there. So we're going to leave that there. See, if I get it here to where it matches up here, it's not quite matching up there. So that's what I'm going to have to play around with. So let's go back up to the top. And so got to kind of play around with this just a little bit, just to try to get it to where all right, let me go ahead and toy around with this and we'll see what we can get. Okay, and there we go. It seems to be matching pretty closely on both sides, and as you could see, based on the limited information that we have on that image, this is where the nacelles are going to be, right here. Let's go ahead and look at that in a render. Oops. Do I have it on animate? Oh, yeah, it's on animate. I'm sorry. But yeah, that looks like that's matching up pretty good to the photo. Once again, I don't think it was going to. I don't know if the ship is going to look good. Once again, this is just based off of just the few details that we've seen. I mean, unless, Doug Drexler releases, more images detailing like an exact side view and top view of the ship. I mean, we're never going to really know 100% of exactly how the ship is supposed to look. But based on the evidence in this one photo, then we are going to go ahead. I mean, that's pretty much what it looks like right there. So those nacelles apparently go back a lot further than I was hoping, but they also come forward quite a bit, as you can see right here. So now I know well, we'll talk more about the nacelles later, but I don't know. One thing I would like to do if I was to change the ship would be to change the nacelles, because these nacelles I know have a history behind them. But anyways, yeah, so I think we're going to go ahead and call it a day right there. I mean, we got some primitives added on. We added some more stuff to the saucer sections. So I'm going to go ahead and change this dome again right here and fiddle around a little bit more with some of the primitives. And I might actually go ahead and add in the off-screen, the nacelles or primitives for the nacelles. And when we come back in, we are going to go ahead and kind of round out a little bit more of the details on the saucer section, mainly on the top. The bottom we'll take care of later. And we will start with the deflector dish. Start adding in the details up there. So, please feel free to leave any kind of comments. Any type of comments or ideas that you may have would be appreciative. So this is, even though it's a fun project for me, I do appreciate any kind of ideas or criticism or anything like that. So yeah, feel free to go ahead and leave some comments and let me know what you think. So this is Bbeltdan, and I will see you next time.